Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Roger Johnson and Rachel Burton.
Good morning. Our headlines today: calls for university students to stay at home and study online to stop the spread of coronavirus. A union says that campuses are at risk of turning into the care homes of the second wave.
Not going back to school could put a huge dent in children's future life chances, according to the Education Secretary.
European countries are urged to offer a place of safety to hundreds of migrants rescued by ships in the Mediterranean, including one paid for by the graffiti artist Banksy.
Good morning. Picking up where they left off, Aubameyang shines again as Arsenal beat Liverpool on penalties in the Community Shield to claim their second trophy at Wembley in a month.
Hello, good morning. We've got a decent day on our hands. A little bit cool to start and never that warm throughout the day, but there's a lot of dry weather to be had. Some sunshine too, maybe a passing shower. I'll tell you who gets what and where and when in just a few minutes.
Good morning. It's Sunday the 30th of August. Our top story today: university students should stay at home and study online until after Christmas to prevent a second wave of coronavirus. That is according to the union, which represents lecturers.
Yeah, more than 1 million students are due to return to campus this term, but the University and College Union warns this could be a recipe for disaster. Universities insist they've spent months planning for a safe start to the new term. Here's our education editor, Bramwyn Jeffries.
It's been quiet on campuses since March, but within weeks, students are due to return. More than 1 million across the UK. The University Lecturers Union says that should be put on hold. They want students to stay home, study online, unless they're doing a practical course, and warn full reopening could prompt a crisis.
We are really worried that we could see universities becoming the care home of any second wave of COVID-19 in the UK. The sheer amount of people that we're asking to move across the country and then congregate together in large numbers when we don't think there is sufficient safety measures in place. So we're looking at big residential bubbles, we're looking at students potentially mixing outside of those, and as we say, no real way to trace or to test.
The National Union of Students agrees, but universities say they're making campuses safe, more cleaning, partitions, face coverings, most offering a mix of online and face-to-face learning, clear rules in student accommodation. Universities say they expect students to be responsible.
Every student signs a contract with that university, and this year those contracts have been amended to include particular rules around social distancing and following the guidance that's in place at that time. The vast majority of our students are very responsible young adults. Any small minority that don't obey the requirements of that contract, we have adjusted our disciplinary procedures and we'll deal with them under those procedures.
The government says it's right for universities to reopen. It's going to update its advice in England. Many students can't wait to start, but student life this year won't be quite the same. Bramwyn Jeffries, BBC News.
Well, the Education Secretary has warned that parents who don't send their children back to school risk putting a dent in their future life chances.
Yeah, Gavin Williamson has written an open letter to parents as children in England, Wales and Northern Ireland prepare to return to the classroom this week. We're joined by our political correspondent, Tony Bonsignore. Tony, hi. Did he say anything particularly surprising here?
Morning, Rachel. No, not particularly. It's the same sort of thing we've been hearing for a number of days and weeks now, but clearly there is nervousness within government with just a few days to go. The message from Gavin Williamson to parents is pretty simple. I know some of you are worried, he says, but it is safe. And in fact, the bigger danger is that pupils don't go back to school, given everything we know about their long-term health and social development. Now, there's two parts to his message. On the one hand, he says, look at the scientific evidence. Listen to the 4 chief medical officers of the United Kingdom. They all say it's safe. The scientific evidence, he says, suggests there is a vanishingly small risk of serious health implications for children. But on the other hand, he says, even given that, schools have put in place huge protections for pupils. So things like cleaning controls, extra hygiene, PPE, protective equipment in case there is outbreaks, tests for those who have symptoms, extra money for those who have to travel by public transport. So given all that, clearly, it's not just the parents who are worried with just days to go. Clearly, the government is desperate to get this one right.
And there's another story in a couple of the papers today, Tony, about potential tax hikes to pay for all the extra things, all the extra support the government's had to bring in as a result of coronavirus. Can you tell us anything more about that?
Well, I mean, we're in the realms of speculation at the moment. I mean, there's more than 2 months to go till the budget in November, but clearly, given everything that's happened, given the state of the economy, given the high levels of uncertainty over coronavirus, well, that speculation is already starting about what the Treasury might be considering. And a couple of papers today, the Sunday Times and the Sunday Telegraph, have some detail about things that are being discussed, measures that are being discussed within the Treasury at the moment. So, for example, they say the government is considering increasing corporation tax, increasing capital gains tax, perhaps to come in line with income tax, increasing or rather reducing pensions tax relief, simplifying the inheritance tax regime. Now, clearly no decisions have been made. It's way too early for that, but the Treasury will be starting to work now, and even though, as I say, there is all this huge uncertainty at the moment, I think the speculation serves a couple of purposes. On the one hand, it floats ideas to see how they go down with the public and, of course, with Tory MPs as well, but it also prepares us all, I think, for what the government knows, and perhaps we know in our heart of hearts, that there are some very tough times to come.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much, Tony Bonsignore.
Now, new research shows that care homes in England had the largest increase in excess deaths at the height of the pandemic compared with the rest of the UK. The study, which was led by the University of Stirling, also shows that care home residents have accounted for 40% of all coronavirus deaths in the UK. Professor David Bell led the research, and he says that more information needs to be collected to avoid the impact of a potential second wave on the care sector.
There are, for example, many more care homes than there are hospitals, and there's a lot that goes on around care at home that we don't really know about. But I think the past few months have been a wake-up call that really some more effort has to be put into this area, because without the data and the evidence, we can't know whether the policies that we're putting in place are working.
The UN Refugee Agency says hundreds of migrants who've been rescued in the Mediterranean must be granted a place of safety.
They are still at sea, having been rescued by 3 boats, including one which has been paid for by the graffiti artist Banksy. This report from Simon Jones.
Brought to shore and to safety. 49 migrants who had initially been rescued by a ship belonging to Banksy, the Louise Michel. They were taken to Lampedusa by the Italian Coast Guard. These are the lucky ones. The fate of hundreds more people still on the water remains unclear. The Louise Michel had picked up more than 200 people at sea. It became dangerously overcrowded and stranded off the coast of Malta. Some of the migrants had to stay on life rafts floating alongside the boat. The crew said nobody in the international community was willing to help.
Everyone that has been rescued is deeply traumatized. We'll keep trying to contact European authorities to be assigned a port of safety.
One ship did come to help, another rescue vessel, the Sea-Watch 4. It was already carrying around 200 migrants. After taking on board those from the Louise Michel, the Sea-Watch crew tweeted, "We now have around 350 people on board who need to disembark in a safe port as soon as possible." The Louise Michel added, "It's not over. We demand a place of safety for all survivors now." The Louise Michel had only recently gone into service as a rescue ship, complete with its own Banksy artwork. The artist has accused the EU authorities of ignoring distress calls from non-Europeans. The UN Refugee Agency says a solution must be found, and saving lives is a humanitarian imperative. Simon Jones, BBC News.
Imagine if you had a life-changing illness but no one had ever given you a diagnosis.
What is this?
I've had 4 operations. It didn't cure me.
For the first time ever, can they solve the unsolvable?
Doctors are often like crime detectives.
The pieces of the jigsaw puzzle come together and you're like, yes.
Every patient is looking for an answer.
Oh, because you.
Join Michael Mosley for the Diagnosis Detectives. Starts tomorrow at 9 on BBC 2 and iPlayer.
This is amazing, this story actually. 14-year-old Hamish from Jersey turned to music when his mother died in 2018. So only a couple of years ago, he started piano lessons at the end of last year and coronavirus came along. So he spent lockdown learning online and has just achieved the highest piano grade possible.
Wow.
Amazing. He did it in part with a piece of music he composed in memory of his mum.
It was 2018 when I lost my mum. That was the sort of same time I was discovering music and just really flourishing in that. So I think I put a lot of emotion and my feelings into that. It wasn't as sad almost because I had something to focus on, a drive, which I could almost think every day after I came home from school, right, this is what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna do it really good. She was a really great cook and that, and really great music taste as well, like Ava Cassidy and all that. I've got a lot of different styles of music and inspirations from my dad and my mum, and I'm really just trying to soak in as much different genres as possible. I think once you get something so ingrained in your muscle memory, no matter what it is, if it's like music production or piano, once everything's there and you can just go for it. Playing by ear as well, I find that a bit easier than playing by music and playing just with feeling almost. Music is just an instinct to me rather than the reading or the theory or that. It's more just a feeling that it evokes in people. Like when someone plays tennis or when someone rides a bike, I think we all have that thing and we've just got to find it almost.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.